Triton and what we should all strive for. Next up, I would like to invite our student keynote speaker, Neda Fateh, to the podium. Please join me in welcoming her.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be standing here with you all today. I want to first take a moment to thank the faculty, staff, family, and friends that have joined us in celebration. Now, to my fellow graduates, to the class of 2018, tonight we will all be leaving the ceremony as graduates of the Jacobs School of Engineering. As engineers, we've spent the last few years learning how to solve problems. Realistically speaking, most of these problems we've probably created for ourselves. Like walking into your final after missing the last 2 labs, 3 quizzes, and somehow leaving every lecture even more confused than when you entered it, but still deciding to spend the past hour before the exam calculating the minimum number of points you need to pass. But in these last few years, we've learned how to solve real problems by thinking logically, analyzing complex systems, designing innovative solutions, and learning how to properly debug seg faults. And no, adding more print statements is not going to help. We've also learned that there are even greater problems in this world that need solving. Teams that have worked for quarters in the Global Ties program, designing life-saving lanterns, or building solar water heaters for orphanages in Mexico, or participating in a NASA-led competition through SEDS to create the first student-built satellite to orbit the moon. But tonight, I want to focus on the impact that each of us can have in our more immediate surroundings, and some of the problems that we can solve that we may not have previously considered. The fact that we are here today is an inspiration. We will be graduates of one of the top engineering schools in the nation. We've taken classes with world-renowned faculty and are surrounded by cutting-edge labs and research. There's also those of us that have had the privilege of living that Silicon Valley intern lifestyle, where we would spend the afternoon biking around the Googleplex, jumping into ball pits, and cafe hopping, eating all of that free food, all the while being compensated generously. However, I began to realize that there is a reality outside of this bubble that we have been living in these last 2 years. Last year, I had the opportunity to visit Crawford High School, just a 30-minute drive from UCSD, and had the chance to speak to a little theater of students. As I started speaking about my journey, the things I had learned as a computer science major, the internships I had done, and the projects I'd worked on, the room was silent and the students were mesmerized. Only after speaking to them did I learn that they were silent because they never realized that these opportunities existed. 97% of these students are socioeconomically disadvantaged and may have had no vision of themselves succeeding as engineers. We talk a lot about how, as an engineer, you can change the world, but sometimes neglect the fact that being an engineer can also change your world. I know that each of us has our own story of how we made it here today, and what we may take for granted now can make the world of a difference for someone else. My older sister is a social worker, and the lives that we lead are vastly different. Her career path and day-to-day work is focused on human services and social justice. Her work produces social good. Our work as engineers produces technology, structures, and machines. And I still remember my concerns as I began my studies in computer science that the work I would be doing would be disconnected from the world I was living in and wouldn't have the same social impact that her work does. But in these last few years, I've found that these two worlds, in fact, are not mutually exclusive, and that we can use our privilege as engineers to impact social good as well. I've learned that there are some problems that can't be solved by building an app, and that sometimes our biggest impact can come from the interactions we have with each other as individuals. I know I can't be the only one to say this, but it would have been almost impossible to get through these last few years on our own. We've tutored each other, debated over complicated problem sets, and spent late nights in the lab questioning our life decisions. And each of our little successes along the way did not happen in isolation. and can be attributed to the support and guidance that we've received from the people that are around us. I still remember when my computer architecture professor, who also happens to be chair of the department, asked me if I would consider pursuing a PhD. For someone to have that much confidence in you when you yourself are unsure of what you're capable of is incredibly meaningful. A few months ago, one of the high school students I was working with, who was advanced in math, firmly believed that she could not code. But after some encouragement, she realized it was something she was good at and wanted to pursue. In its essence, these individuals and the relationships that we have with each other contributes to our engagement with the community as a whole and goes beyond what we may perceive as our responsibilities and commitments as engineers. Within the next hour, we will be presented our engineering rings, and each of us will make a commitment that our skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good. Even though most of us won't remember the material that was on that final 2 days ago, I know that the skills and experiences that we've gained during our time at UCSD has the potential to transcend any of our next jobs. We each have the obligation to give our time and effort toward causes that are even greater than our own personal accomplishments. We can use our talents to give back to our communities, whether that be giving our time to visit underserved schools and hold workshops, or teaching the fundamentals of engineering design and construction as job skills to our unemployed neighbors. And as we take our next steps, whether we choose to work in industry, pursue graduate school, or something entirely different, let us remember to invest our time. Let us remember to invest our time beyond our technical careers and to realize the influence that we can have on the people that are around us. Let us take a step outside of our engineering bubble and think about how we can engage with our communities in a meaningful way, inspiring the next generation, or using our problem-solving skills in the realm of public service. I am confident in our abilities to expand the scope of our contributions into the real world that we are entering. Once again, congratulations to the class of 2018. We made it, and I can't wait to see what we do next. Thank you.
Okay, Netta, thank you very, very much again for sharing your experiences at Jacobs with us. Maybe you told me a little bit too much about what's really going on in the corridors, but I'll try to have a blind eye as I walk through the corridors and just let it happen the way it's been happening.